CFOs, there is a vicious rumor going around that some of you are still doing your GL Recons using Excel. Here to talk to us about alternatives and far more efficient ways of doing those recons at the end of each month is Howard Ribko. Howard, thank you so much for joining me on scottcundill.com.
Hi, Scott. Pleased to be here.
Fantastic. Well, let's go straight into it. Just tell us about Excel and how some of the most important financial decisions are still made using this powerful, but some would say archaic tool.
Excel is so deeply buried in organizations all over the world. They use it for everything, and especially for financial. And the sad thing is that research has shown 9 out of 10 Excel spreadsheets have errors. And a lot of them are undetected errors, and some of those errors have led to serious consequences, serious financial consequences. But unfortunately, in this country, many people, many organizations use Excel as their month-end close management tool. And then they take those figures and they present them to the board, and then the board presents those figures to investors and the banks lend their money, and then everything looks fine for a while until, boom, we have a start-off problem on a smaller scale.
So it is a bit concerning, as you say, 9 out of 10. I mean, that's a huge error. Look, what is the first step that you go about fixing this? I mean, first of all, you mentioned in your article, which is outstanding, CFOs, GL Recon still using Excel are dead. You talk about the fact that, around half of companies and big companies still use Excel. Like you say, it's embedded into their systems. I mean, is it why? Is it just, are they so used to it? Is it what they know? Or is it the lack of anything better that is keeping them on the same playing field?
I think the majority of CFOs and FDs know that there's errors in the sheets. They know that there's errors in the numbers that they get, but they don't have the time, the energy, and sometimes even the courage to go and look for them. And then it all comes down to trust. So they think they trust their numbers, they pretend they trust their numbers, but they know deep down, late at night, that they can't. And then they say, okay, well, let's fix it. So they go and look for month-end close software that does the general ledger reconciliations and the month-end close and manages all the processes. And all those systems are dollar-based. They're dollar-based, they're based on user licensing and on massive implementation costs. One of our customers, for example, took a 4.5 million rand a year bill for month-end reconciliation and financial close software down to well below 500,000 rand, simply by coming to us and going local.
Okay, so this is quite interesting for me. And before we go, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but in terms of this concept of locality and being able to do this in rands, versus trying to do the conversion in dollars, etc. That's quite scary, because it's another issue that can creep in, and B, as you also mentioned in your article, it must take a huge amount of time to just continuously check and recheck and then go back and actually fix these problems.
Yes, Scott. In actual fact, sometimes they don't go back and fix the problems because the time just keeps going. I mean, another customer of ours had a standard process of doing month-end reconciliation for the group, where 2 of the group companies were always 60 days behind. So how do you present consolidated numbers to your board or your bankers or your investors when some of those numbers still haven't come in yet? So you're running at least 2 to 3 months behind the reality. And you need a system that's manageable, that's affordable, and that's easy to use, that can fix that.
So Howard, I'm no CFO, but being a business owner myself, I can say right frankly that being 60 days behind, I mean, let's just put this into perspective. If you were 60 days behind around this sort of time, you're almost looking at almost, not quite obviously, pre-COVID figures. I mean, the world is a different place in 60 days. And I can tell you 60 days from now, it's going to be another different place. I mean, surely this must be keeping CFOs awake at night.
It should be, but often the problems are so big that they just flow with them. I mean, we went to see a prospective customer in the good old days when you had face-to-face meetings. And he was in an office with boxes. I mean, there's a fancy CFO office with carpets that thick. And he's just got boxes upon boxes piled behind his desk, around his desk, of stuff that he needs to attend to, or him and his staff. And he's just given up. So that's the problem. It's a human problem.
Yeah, I can understand. It's just it's work overload, and you can't get to it. I mean, wow. Okay, so you obviously can't fix this problem overnight unless you tell me we can, in which case, wow. But let's just assume for a second you can't fix it overnight, but you can fix it incrementally. Where do you start? What is that first incremental change that you would need to implement to start that process of automation?
You need Greenline. That's where you start. If you take the average company that we implement Greenline in, it takes 1 month. It takes some courage and some conviction and 1 month, and you can take away the paper systems. And if you're thinking about problems with the paper systems, it's just occurred to me, you know, the last 2 months, a lot of these companies have been relying on couriers to deliver these boxes with the financial supporting documents for all their numbers. They come by courier. So what happens now is you're going to have a whole lot of companies in this country that haven't even received 2 months behind numbers. They haven't received the boxes. So it's going to be even worse. And if you took the Greenline route, and what Greenline does is it allows an organization to get their staff who do the reconciliations and who check the reconciliations. They select their own workloads and they start on their own. And you can allow them quickly to pick up the tasks they need. They can almost learn how to use this by themselves. And we've had experience that once users get it, they love it because they don't have to go and look and fiddle around for things. The stuff's in front of them. They can take it's existing data that comes out of supporting documents and attach it. It's a really easy process.
Howard, you have a very interesting pedigree to allow you to sort of come to terms with these issues. I mean, should I say Dr. Ribko? You have a medical degree. You have a medical degree, but you're obviously, you have a lot of experience in the medical accounting side. And now, of course, the software side. So you know how to pull things apart, diagnose them. You understand the accounting side, but you also get software. Just tell us a little bit about Greenline and just what made you decide this is something I need to build and help these companies get rid of these boxes that are piled around them.
So, Scott, I've been busy with software since 1984. I wrote software for the CSIR in 1984, 1985, when I just came out of medical school. And I've been so much in love with building software since then. That's all I've really been involved in all these years. So as you said, we were initially involved in financial accounting from the medical side, and both in private and in clinics. And over the time, I've been stuck with software. And now your question is, what got us into Greenline? What got us into Greenline is the same thing that gets software people into business. It's people with pain. So I got a call from an FD of a relatively small company that employs about 60,000 people. And he said to me, Howard, you have to help me get out of this mess. And I understood almost nothing about the month-end process. And over the period of the next year, we spent time and we built the system around the requirements. And that's really how you build software. You incrementally move it closer and closer to what the user wants. And eventually, you end up with something that looks more or less like what they dreamt of. And that's where we got to with Greenland.
It's a great story. So you've effectively surrounded yourself with those boxes in the position of a CFO and said, what is it that you're doing? Shadowed them, watched them, put the processes in place. And over the course of the year, came up with Greenline. And it's amazing because you understand the South African market. And I think that is what is unique about what you're offering. And obviously your passion and understanding of software. Howard, where can people get hold of you? And where can CFOs take the first step to getting in touch?
Okay. Synchrony is based in Sandton, South Africa. We have a website called greenline.financial, where all the contact details are there. We've got a dedicated sales guy who will come and help you and understand your problem and talk to you about it and present a solution. So I'm available anytime.
Greenline.financial.
Greenline.financial. That's where you can find me.
Howard Ribko, Dr. Ribko. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me on scottcundill.com.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you.